Hello everybody, welcome to the Zentangle Project Pack series. I am Molly, and this video is the fourth video of Project Pack number 5. We are calling this series Zentangle Cartouches. These tutorials in this series can easily be watched in any order. However, we really do recommend watching the Introduction to Project Pack number 5 video first, as it explains the inspiration behind Zentangle cartouches, and it discusses the materials as well as some great instructions and tips on how to prepare and mount your photos or keepsakes. In these follow-up videos, we'll really be focusing in on the tangling part of things, and that's where I'm coming in. So I do have my Project Pack materials here. I've already prepared my my photographs that I'm going to be working on, and I used my edgers here. I also used a pair of regular scissors to prepare mine, and I used all of the materials, well, I think all of them anyway, and the other ones I created. I used all the tools, and I also used a black micron pen, which is not included in the project pack. We assumed a lot of tanglers would have a black pen already, so that's what I have for materials right with me. I have prepared this one photograph here, and I have this cute picture of me and my siblings, and it was a little bit accidental when I was cutting it out. I was sort of trimming around something, which is what happens in a lot of photographs. You kind of have something you want to trim out. And I noticed that it kind of started to look like a heart shape, so I kind of just went with it, and I was using my edgers, and but it sort of cut off at the bottom because the bottom of the photograph was right here. So I'm going to play with that when I create my border. I'm going to try to play with this shape. The technique I'm going to be playing with is a technique or a variation on what you use when we did our embedded letters, and that was something that was introduced like maybe a year ago, maybe a little longer. And I'm going to use that same technique, but rather in a border-like approach. So I have received in my project pack 2 micron pens. One was brown and one was this really cool green color. And I think that on the tan paper, I'm going to try using this brown. I think that's going to be pretty cool. So you're welcome to watch for a while to sort of get the hang of what I'm doing. It's a pretty simple step and repeat kind of thing, but you might want to just check out my mine first before you get going. So I'm going to play with this deckled edge just a little bit, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a simple aura, sort of mimicking this deckle edge. And it doesn't have to be perfectly mimicking, but just to give the idea of the deckle is kind of a fun little way to begin. I'm still turning my paper as I work, making it the most comfortable. When I'm working on like a long line like this, I many times will draw over the line I just finished on to create sort of a takeoff and land, and this way it looks like one continuous line, and you can go back and sort of shape things if you need to here and there, but it sort of it gives it a more full complete look. So I went all the way around kind of like this, and then I am going to, what I think I'm going to do is kind of go down like this to sort of play with that shape a little bit. Does that make sense? So I have that shape there. That's kind of fun, right? That's cute. And give it to my mom when I'm done. All right, so I have the original aura done, and I think what I'm going to do is now put my second step in my embedded border here, which is to create these sort of like sprouts that come off of the original line. So what I mean by that are these cute little shapes like so. They're kind of like tangle we call fescue. And it's sort of like this just flowing line that then has a little teardrop top to it. And these are kind of random, going in different directions. They don't have to be exact, and actually it's more interesting if they're kind of, some are bigger than others. And you can have, different spacing in between each one. Just want to get a bunch of them all along your border. This technique is really all about aura, and it's a nice one to just sort of settle into, get lost with. I find myself wanting to put it around everything lately. Chances are that if you've been in a class of mine recently, I shared this with you because for some reason it's like my favorite new technique. And now inside this space, I'm adding some going inside of that space and some outside of that space. We'll see how this works. I'm kind of being a little playful with the heart shape. I want it to be subtle. I don't want it to be too obvious. So once we have all of our sprouts on there, we're simply going to go into these little nooks that the sprouts, or spaces that the sprouts have created, and just add some what we call weighting. And it's like a little rounded, sort of delicate bit of ink at the bottom here. And you're going to go around to all your sprouts and fill in that space. So what I'm doing now is I'm simply going back around my aura, but now I'm traveling around each one of those sprouts that we put in there and sort of reacting to the weighted areas as part of the new sort of path that I have to follow. So if you had done any of the embedded letters, you're now probably starting to see the familiar approach and are probably able to just go with it. I love the way this kind of fills in like a infested little wildflower garden or something. And so we're just going to continue on bouncing back and forth between adding the aura, adding a bunch of layers of these little fescues, weighting all the little nooks and crannies or whatever. Oh, here's one too. And then adding another border. So you can go ahead and start on yours. After this second border, I may add a couple of orbs in a couple of places. For instance, let's see what I can show you here. Maybe just smushing a few orbs in here and there. And I'm just going to do a few on every layer I put in. I'm probably going to put quite a few layers in, but you get the idea. So let's continue on and add a bunch more layers. And the the order will be aura, add some sprouts, add your weighting, and then maybe throw a couple orbs in here and there. Okay, I have gone through like 3 times, maybe 4 times in some places. I've added a couple orbs. Ooh, might add another one right there. And the trick with the embedded bit is to really go back and add those little bits of weighting, and that's what makes it like have this really cool effect. So I think that's like kind of the trick to this technique, I would say. And I like it with the tan on the brown paper. This is kind of a cool look. And then I've added this other detail. We're adding these orbs here and there. And so I think because I'm using the tan paper, and you might be playing around with another color paper, and I'm going to show you some examples I did on different paper in a second. But I think that I'm going to fill in my orbs with my white jelly roll. I think that's going to look kind of cool, and then bring out some of the brightness in the photograph. So I'm using this Jelly Roll 10, which was included in my project pack, and I'm just simply gonna go into each one of these orbs and kind of, so with a real light touch, just add a nice wet glob of that gel ink. Kind of go over it a few times. Oh, that makes it pop. Awesome. So I'm just gonna go around and do that now. All right, I got all my orbs filled in, and I actually feel like I love it just the way it is. I think I'm not going to add any shading. This particular border just does really well by itself. I mean, I've played with shading before with it, but I think with this photograph and all that detail, I think that's just the way I want it. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of other examples I did, just so you can see the potential of all the different directions you go. So this is the first one, you guys saw that. Here's one I did of my girls, and this one I mounted the photograph on first the tan paper, and then mounted the tan paper on the black paper, so I had a little bit of dimension here. And I did a simple version of what we just did, holding on to a little plate that had the date there. And then on the second piece of paper, the black, I did the jelly roll on the black, and this border actually looks awesome in black, so I highly recommend playing with it with that thick jelly roll pen. I think you'll have a lot of luck with that. So that was fun. Here is one of me and Nick. I did it with an oval. I just simply traced an oval. Here's one my mom did, super sweet, and she didn't do it all the way around. She kind of just cut out a photograph, you know, and then she just played with sort of some of the different shapes that were going around. So that one's super simple there. And oh, and this one I used the green pen, which I think was really fun because it kind of pulled out some of the other colors. Quick note, I actually accidentally drew on Nick's shirt when I was tracing it. I should have used a pencil, but I used a pen, and so there was a big mark going across here. And so I just I drew right on top of the photograph. Luckily, it was on a matte piece of paper, so I was able to just fill that in. So that was kind of a fun opportunity. Here's a cool one my mom did, where she just did the embedded letter at the bottom and sort of tied it around this whole border. So that one's kind of fun. And then this one, I actually started a little photo album here. It's actually in one of the Zentangle journals, and I decided to start doing a whole album. So here's some pictures of my girls. I did 2 ovals again, and then I did the borders. And I did the same thing because I actually had some little spots here, and I made the border kind of tie into the photograph, which is kind of a fun detail to do. This one I used the gold pen to create the little orbs. So those are like just little dots, and they create like a nice detail. And then the inspiration, again, was embedded letters. These are some embedded arrows I did using the same technique. So you can kind of run with this with pictures, not with pictures. Here's another one I think I used for an example when I started putting in the orbs. So This is a really fun border. I hope you guys have fun exploring it. I had fun with it, and my little embedded heart here with my siblings. So thanks for joining me, and have fun with your Zentangle cartouches.